Hey everybody, welcome to week one of your cybersecurity strategy, whatever that course it is. Um, I'm Todd Vogie. I'm your instructor for these next few weeks. And little, I like this module because I'm a cybersecurity fanatic. That's what I do for a living, and I really enjoy talking about cybersecurity. But the way Concordia has this module is more towards the strategy side of things and not necessarily cybersecurity strategy. um, so it's going to help bone you up on your strategic thinking a little bit, but it doesn't give you a whole lot of cybersecurity. So my goal here is to give you a little bit more cybersecurity. And so what I'm going to do each week is I'm going to create a video that's based off of a different book that I'm using in one of our other modules, our information security module for information technology and management. And we're going to go through some of the cybersecurity pieces that go through that. And I can add some of the pieces that I've gone through personally as we've gone through. Oh gosh, I've been working cybersecurity longer than I care to think. Uh, so it's it's a very interesting topic. There's a lot of availability for jobs in cybersecurity right now. Companies are really poaching from each other as there are not a lot of people going into the cybersecurity realm. And the problem that you run into if you are going into the cybersecurity realm is people want you to have experience. Well, if you can't get hired, how do you get experience? That old catch-22. So anyway, I want to go through and talk about some of cybersecurity, information security. Um, Kind of look at certifications and so on. Uh, I'm going to kind of lean towards showing things that are built off of the CISM, the Certified Information Security Manager certification from ISACA, and there'll be a little bit of the CISSP, the Certified Information System Security Professional from ISC Squared. I am a CISM and a CISSP. So I'm going to kind of bring a little bit of both of those into this. So hopefully you find this useful. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. My goal is to probably 15-20 minutes on each of these videos just to give you a little bit of an overview, and hopefully that will help you out as you're going through the module and down the road. I also want to mention to you, make sure you keep my contact information, because if you go into any cybersecurity types of occupations or want to move that direction, feel free to call me, text me, email me, whatever. I would be more than happy to talk to you and help you out in getting you off on your cybersecurity career if you would like to. So just keep my contact information, get me on LinkedIn, and be happy to continue that discussion. So let's talk about information security a little bit here. And I'm going to jump through this. This is a 66-page PowerPoint, death by PowerPoint, and I'm not going to go through all of these things here. But just some real high-level items that are kind of important. IT enables the storage and transportation of information from one business unit to another, or from one place to another. But what happens if the vehicle breaks down, even for a little while? We'll talk about that. Managers are increasingly recognizing the critical nature of information security. That's a gimme now. If your business doesn't understand the value and the importance of information security, they're destined for failure. no ifs, ands, and buts about it. That's exactly what they're destined for failure. And then the emergence of executive level InfoSec managers, which would be like your Chief Information Security Officer or your CISO, your Chief Information Officer, CIO, your Chief Technology Officer, Chief Risk Manager or Chief Risk Officer, Chief, what else is out there? Well, I guess those are the big ones. But having so many different hats in the C-suite now that are dealing with information security just shows you how important this has become in organizations. And this has even gotten up into the board levels of companies that are publicly traded, for example, or those that have boards of directors, where the compliance committees and so on have gotten more hands-on when it comes to cybersecurity and information security, just because it's gotten to be it's gotten to be a huge thing in business, where regulators are coming down on businesses now, making sure that they're following proper and industry standards. You've got not only regulators but customers that are doing that. My company deals with back-end mortgage processing for most of the big banks out there. So if you've got a mortgage with JP Morgan Chase or Wells Fargo or SunTrust or Bank of America or you name it, Navy Federal Credit Union, you name the bank, chances are your data is sitting on my systems down in Jacksonville, Florida. My job and my team's job is to keep your data safe. So that's become an imperative from the board level on down as we've gone through these things. Organizations must realize that information security planning and funding decisions involve more than managers of information or the members of the information security team or the manager of information systems. Everybody is involved with information security. The old adage was everybody sells, when they were talking about organizations, whether you're dealing in IT or you're the custodian mopping the floors in the building. Everyone sells, okay? Your reputation as a business depends on all of your employees. Information security is the same way. Everyone protects information. Whether you're the person mopping the floors on up to the chief executive officer and the chairman of the board, or chairperson of the board. Information security is tied to everybody. It's not just the IT folks. In general, security means being free from danger. And to be secure is to be protected from the risk of loss, damage, unwanted modification, or other hazard. That's the wish. Achieving that depends on the implementation of a multi-layered system. We talk about defense in depth, which is something that originated in the military. I was prior Navy, and we talk defense in depth, meaning you have different layers of defense in different areas. Well, we do the same type of deal. We put in, I like to call them hoops, putting in enough hoops to where the bad guy finally gets fed up of trying to get into your system, because there are so many hoops that they've got to jump through that they go off to somebody else. Now, is that ethical? Yeah, it's on the cusp of that. But it's something that's very important. My job is to keep my data safe. It's not to keep my competitors' data safe. That's up to them. So if the bad guys leave me because my stuff is too secure and they go off to the competitors and they find a hole, well, that's on my competitors, not me. Security is often achieved by means of several strategies undertaken. We'll talk about that down the road here. and the role of management to ensure that each strategy is properly planned, organized, staffed, directed, and controlled. It's the properly staffed, directed, and controlled that get tough, making sure we have the right people and so on. So some specialized areas of security: physical security, operations, communications, cyber, network security, and they all tie together. So InfoSec focuses on the protection of information and the characteristics that give it value. Now, three big things that we talk about when we talk about information security are is called the CIA triad, or confidentiality, integrity, and availability. A lot of times you'll see this in a triangle, because if one of those pieces fails, the entire system fails. So you've got to have all three to hold up for information security. And we do this through a lot of mechanisms such as policies, training and awareness programs, and technology. So here you can kind of see how these things kind of fit together. Now this is kind of a little bit different chart than normally. Normally you see confidentiality, integrity, and availability as a triangle, but the CIA is the building blocks, or the foundational pieces for the rest of our security program. So we've got computer security, data security, network security, three silos. They all tie into the policies. The management of information security is up there. Information security and governance are up there. And all of those pieces are very important to have in place for people to understand and be able to manage an information security program properly. So here we talk about the CIA triad, and so this is called, it talks about the CNSS or the NSTISSI, the Macomber cube. You don't hear about that too much in the real world, so we're going to kind of blow by that a little bit here. But we'll talk about the triad, and here's what I was talking about, where all three of these things are necessary to maintain the security of our data. If we don't have confidentiality, integrity and availability are going to fail. If we don't have availability, confidentiality and integrity fail, and so on. So what are they? So confidentiality, attribute of information that describes how data is protected from disclosure or exposure to unauthorized individuals. Confidentiality is saying how many people have the ability to access that data, and what data are they accessing. So it goes by the information classification. The category of the data. Is it public information? Is it non-public information? Is it company classified? Is it not, or PII, personally identifiable information, and so on. Integrity is just saying, how's the data? Is it whole? Is it complete? Is it uncorrupted? Is the data, the processing and so on of that data, is it being done correctly so it can be stored correctly or transferred on correctly? And corruption can occur while information is being entered, stored, or transmitted. We want to make sure that in all three of those spots we have integrity. And the last part of it is availability. Is the data available to our customers? Excuse me. Is the data available to our employees? Is the data available to the people who need it when they need it? It's not, as that last bullet point says, it's not to imply that the information is accessible to any user. it means it can be accessed when needed by authorized users. And when we talk about identity and authentication and so on, we'll talk about least privileges and making sure that people have only the rights that they need. So privacy is also in here. It's in the context of information security, the right of individuals or groups to protect themselves and their information. Information that's collected, used, or stored by an organization is to be used only for the purposes stated by the data. That's why we have privacy policies out there and so on. Privacy does not mean freedom from observation. It means that the information will be used only in the ways approved. Information aggregation, that's one thing my company does a lot of, is aggregating data, especially in our public, our data and analytics division, where we aggregate all of the loan data from our customers. We take all of the loan information from our customers and we aggregate it together, taking out all the personally identifiable information, anything that could identify a customer or one of their customers, one of the loan holders, and so on. And we grab generalized data out of that, and we resell that. So that information showing trends in mortgages, showing trends in foreclosures, showing trends in how the market is doing right now, and so on. So we deal with information aggregation a lot. Identification, two different things: identification, authentication. Identification is making sure it's the unverified entities who seek access are provided a label, so we make sure that we know who is coming in. We want to make sure that we can identify the user with almost 100% certainty to make sure that they are the ones that are accessing that data. Authentication, on the other hand, is can they get into the system, and if they can, what rights do they have after that? And that goes into the authorization portion of it. After we identify them, we authenticate them, now we're going to say, this is what you have access to do. And then accountability, this is logging that takes place to make sure that only the right people have access to the right things. And we have somebody who, or you hopefully have somebody who monitors logs, or you have log monitoring in place to make sure that only the right people are getting in. All right, so let's talk about threats and attacks a little bit here. Sun Tzu, if you ever want a really good read Sun Tzu's The Art of War. It's a very short read. It was written thousands of years ago, and Sun Tzu was a military general who really wrote the book literally on tactics. And so when he says, therefore I say, one who knows the enemy and knows himself will not be in danger in 100 battles. One who does not know the enemy but knows himself will sometimes win, sometimes lose. One who does not know the enemy and does not know himself will be in danger in every battle. You got to know yourself. You got to know what you want to protect. You want to know the systems, the data, the mechanisms, everything, what you want to protect and how you're going to protect it. And then you also need to know your enemy. You need to continually look at what are my threat vectors, what's my threat landscape, how can people get into my systems, and how can I make sure that they stay out of my systems? But I've got to know who they are and what they have capability of. So as Sun Tzu says, if you know your enemy and you know yourself, you're going to win. Now, in cybersecurity, I don't take the tack that we're going to win. People have asked me so many times when over my travels, I'll get talking to the people sitting next to me, and they'll ask, well, are we ever going to win this battle against the bad guys? And I said, well, good news is I'm going to be employed for a very long time. The bad news is I'm going to be employed for the very long time, meaning, no, we're not going to win. But I liken it to a chess game where I am a novice, or I'm one player, the bad guys are another player, and we play to a stalemate. If we play to a stalemate, they're not gaining and not winning and not getting my data. I'm not gaining, I'm not winning, they're not getting my data. We want to play to a stalemate. So threat represents a potential, keyword there, potential risk to an information asset, whereas an attack or a threat event or actual threat represents an ongoing act against the asset could result in loss. So threat agents are the people that are actually trying to do these things. It could be anywhere from script kiddies, just people who are out there writing scripts trying to think they're cool, to nation state actors who are physically trying to harm businesses and countries. An attack is an intentional or unintentional act that can damage or otherwise compromise information systems. An exploit is a technique used to compromise a system. Threat agents may attempt to exploit a system or other information assets by using it illegally. And a vulnerability is a potential weakness in an asset or its defensive control systems. Big difference between the three, and all three of those are very important that we deal with. 12 categories of threats to information security, compromises to intellectual property, deviations in quality of service, espionage, forces of nature, human error, information extortion, sabotage or vandalism, software attacks, technical hardware failures, technical software failures, technological obsolescence, end of life, theft, whoops, let's go back. So some different examples of those, intellectual property, copyright, infringement, piracy, deviations of quality, ISP can be down, power or WAN in, service problems, DDoS attacks, and so on. Unauthorized access and or data collection for espionage or trespass, forces of nature, fire, floods, earthquakes, lightning, meteor strikes, whatever. Human error, accidents, employee mistakes, information extortion, blackmail, information disclosure. That's becoming a really big one right now. Destruction of systems or information, viruses, worms, macros, denial of service for software attacks, equipment failure, bugs, code problems, unknown loopholes, antiquated or outdated technologies. Look at the IRS and the FAA for just that. And then the illegal confiscation of equipment or information. Let's see here. Let's kind of move forward on these. So some of the attacks that we see, malware, viruses, worms, Trojan horses, polymorphic threats, and hoaxes, those are things that can be dropped onto a computer system or into a system that can allow bad actors to be able to take over systems. Backdoors, trapdoors, and maintenance hooks. A lot of times that can be put in by your system programmers. They'll put in a backdoor or a trapdoor just in case, they'll put it in as a just in case, and then they leave the company and they forget about that, or you forget about that, or you didn't know about that, and the bad guys find it, bad things happen. Denial of service, or a DOS or a DDoS, which is a distributed denial of service. That's where you have zombie computers that have been taken over by a command and control system that will send out messages to a computer system and actually bring it down. Make it to where legitimate traffic can't get in. They're denying service. spam, mail bombs, social engineering attacks, and email. Um, Phishing falls into that, spear phishing, whale phishing. All of those fall in there. Communications interruptions, packet sniffer, spoofing, farming, man-in-the-middle attacks, all of that can happen. These are the major ones that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Technical hardware failures, yeah, that happens. Technical software failures. Large quantities of computer code are written, debugged, published, and sold before all their bugs are detected and resolved. If you ask any of the publishers of that, they're not bugs, they're undocumented features. Sometimes the bugs are not errors, but purposeful shortcuts left by programmers for benign or malign reasons, bypassing security. OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project, a really great place for you to go out and look for the 10 most critical web application security risks. That's updated often, and surprisingly enough, it doesn't change a whole lot because these seem to be the same problems year after year. Some different things that can happen, where we have poor programming and things that can happen. Technological obsolescence. You find this a lot where end-of-life software or hardware where you're not getting any security updates anymore becomes a really big thing. Theft is one. Management leadership we'll talk about real quickly. A leader influences employees so that they're willing to accomplish objectives and is expected to lead by example. A manager administers the resources of the organization, creates budgets, authorized. Leaders do not always perform a managerial function, and managers are often assigned roles in which they are not responsible for personnel or leadership. Effective managers can be effective leaders, but not necessarily. You can be a really great manager and suck at leading, or you can be a really great leader and suck at managing. Or you could suck at both, or you could be great at both. Let's see here. Kind of go through that. Governance, very important set of responsibilities and practices exercised by the board and executive management. The goal of providing strategic direction, ensuring that objectives are achieved, certain that risks are managed appropriately, and verifying the enterprise's resources are used responsibly. We'll talk about governance of risk in another week coming up here. But just know that governance is one of the biggest things in organizations right now, making sure that we have good governance. How to solve a problem. Recognize and define the problem, gather facts, make assumptions, develop solutions, analyze and compare possible solutions, select, implement, and evaluate a solution, figure out you did it wrong, go back to step 3, develop more solutions, and so on. All right. What else have we got in here? So some of the InfoSec planning that needs to take place, and these can work into policies and procedures, standards, and so on. Incident response planning. Incident response is when an incident happens. So somebody is trying to break into your systems, or somebody has broken into your systems. The FBI says, one of the FBI cybersecurity specialists said in a conference that there are 2 types of organizations: those that have had security breaches and those that don't know they have. So incident response is a big thing, trying to figure out, okay, oh crap, something happened, what do we do? Business continuity planning and disaster recovery, sometimes they're talked about in the same breath, but they're 2 different things. Business continuity is, how do I make sure that my business continues to roll even if something happens? Disaster recovery is, we had something really bad happen, and what am I going to do to get the business back online again? technology rollout planning, risk management planning, security program planning. All of that stuff needs to be done in a good InfoSec plan. Policies are a set of organizational guidelines that dictate certain behavior within the organization. Programs are ones that sit above policies. People are the most critical link in the information security program, and they're also the biggest failure mode that we have. All it takes is one person to click the wrong link or get social engineered and get information, give out the wrong information, and the organization is toast. All right, so I'm at about 30 minutes now. You've listened to me long enough. That's just a broad overview of what we want to start with. All right. Each week, like I say, I'm going to go through a little bit different stuff and try and bring you guys up to date on the latest with cybersecurity, and make sure that you're getting a good dose of this as you're going through. I may not talk much about each of the week-to-week items that are on the bulletin boards or in your reading and stuff. And if you have any questions about those, please let me know, and I'll be happy to help out. But this is to try and add in a little more cybersecurity than what is actually in this module. I want to make sure you get some good background there. If you have any questions, give me a call, give me a smoke signal, give me a text. If you're going to call me, text me first, so I know who's trying to call me. Otherwise, I'll shut off your call, and be happy to talk to you about anything. Hope you have a great week. I will try and have these videos posted by Monday or Tuesday each week instead of Thursday, like today. So, looking forward to being with you guys. And if you have any questions or anything, just let me know. Have a great week.